The children were having a fun day on the beach this past summer, riding the waves, building sandcastles, playing frisbee with McDermott, the family dog. In the distance, an old woman appeared. Her tangle of gray hair fluttered in the wind. Her clothes seemed as if they hung on her like a bundle of tattered rags. Her constant, indecipherable murmuring buzzed above the sound of the waves as she bent over every now and then and picked up God knows what out of the sand, and then stuffed whatever it was that she picked up into that shopping bag that was hanging from her arm. As the old woman approached, the parents instinctively moved toward their children, very quietly instructing them, stay away from this strange woman on the beach. And as she passed by, the old woman looked and smiled at the family, but her smile was not returned. As they left the beach, the father asked some of the local people about this spooky old woman that they had come upon during their time on the beach. "Oh, that's Maggie. That's Maggie," he said. "She's a kind old soul. Every morning and every afternoon, she walks the beach picking up bits of glass and sharp stones and shells so that the children do not cut their feet as they walk along the sand." My friends, too often, all too often, you and I, we judge people according to our own dubious standards of who and what is good. The externals of dress and speech and pedigree all fail to take into account the measure of an individual's worth, the love that is rooted into the human heart. Christ, the one upon whom you and I are called to pattern our lives, and the witness that we give as His followers, that Christ says to you and me, look beyond the labels of the tax collector, the prostitute, and that spooky old woman walking along the shore, and seek and lift up the holiness, the goodness that reside in every person who is, like every one of us, a child of God. The tax collectors and the prostitutes in the first century Palestinian Judaism were counted among the ranks of public sinners. They were the unclean people. They came under that same umbrella as the poor, those who Jesus came to call back to the kingdom of God, to God's table. The beggars, the peasants, the shepherds, the widows, the orphans, they were all in the same boat. Jesus' words today in Matthew's gospel speak to a very specific point. They tell us that those poor sinners, the ones who society maybe holds at a distance, the ones in whom need the salvation, the redemption of our God, are entering into the kingdom before many other who hold themselves up as righteous. If you think about it, the gospel today is really speaking about you and about me, because we're all sinners. We're all sinners in need of the mercy of God. And hopefully you and I, because of the interaction of people in our lives, because of the witness of people whose lives have touched us, because of our own reading of the Scriptures and allowing the Scriptures not only to be something that we hear, but something that we integrate into the way in which we live, challenging us to respond to the mercy and love and forgiveness and generosity and grace of our God, has transformed our lives, has allowed us to recognize that God calls us into the kingdom. God calls us to bask around His table. And so perhaps today the Scriptures really challenge you and me to celebrate, to believe in the depths of our heart that God recognizes the goodness in us. And having recognized that goodness, you and I have responded. And our response has allowed us to enter into the kingdom, the love of God's reign. And for us, that's reason to celebrate this day and every day.